Director and actor Chris Evans is an avid reader of Eckhart's work, and we asked if he wanted to join this book club conversation. And even though he's filming a movie on the other side of the world, Chris is Zooming from Athens. Whoa, look at you. Hey, hi, Chris.
Hello. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you for joining us. I have to tell you, I thought I was the biggest Eckhart person on the planet, but you've taken it to the next level, I hear. Tell us about your tattoo. I don't have an Eckhart tattoo.
Yes.
I do not.
I do have an Eckhart tattoo. It's actually from Stillness Speaks. And of the many lines in his books that have resonated, this one just felt like a real North Star. It was a line that said, when you lose touch with inner stillness, you lose touch with yourself. When you lose touch with yourself, you lose yourself in the world. And, I put enormous emphasis on the practice of stillness, which is basically the practice of being present. But you can't be present unless you're accepting of the moment, accepting what is, surrendering to it. I think, well, as I'm sure you all know, most suffering comes from resisting in some capacity what is. You either resist and struggle, or you surrender and accept. And one of those things will bring you closer to who you are, and one of those things, you're on the risk of losing yourself completely.
Wow. So why do you think this particular quote resonated so profoundly with you, Chris?
I think to some degree, the industry I'm in, you hear stories of people losing themselves. But I think through the practice of stillness, all those other downstream lessons and practices occur. The act of recognizing that you're not the voice in your head. You are
That's
just the awareness of it. That voice, that compulsive stream of labeling and comparing, that's not who you are. That voice wants to pull you out of the moment. That voice wants to analyze the past and worry about the future. If you follow that voice too long, you identify with it, and your suffering will just spiral. So that initial quote that I have on me forever just felt like a real foundational building block to this work.
And where is it on you?
Right on my chest, right there.
Okay, I love that. And did you have a question for Eckhart?
Yeah, I do. I had, it was kind of it was kind of a four-parter, but I'm going to spare you. Okay. I guess my question is, you've been doing this for so long. Do you still have access to your former suffering? Can you recognize it? And do you still feel that suffering the way you did then, or do you look at it through different eyes, through a different lens? Does it still resonate the same way?
I don't feel the suffering anymore at all. It's like evaporated. I remember it. I remember, for example, that in my childhood, I was mostly unhappy because of an unstable family background. I didn't have a happy childhood. I remember that. But on a feeling level, I don't revive it. It's not there anymore. It exhausted itself. It evaporated, or it got burned up by the presence. I don't know exactly how to put it. But the unhappiness has not survived in me, except as a mental memory, but not on an emotional level. So it's gone, which is good.
Isn't that a profound thing to be able to say? The unhappiness has not survived in me. The seeds of Eckhart's evolution emerged from a difficult childhood. Born in Germany in 1948, Eckhart's parents separated when he was a child. He eventually became a distinguished research scholar at Cambridge, but his burgeoning success failed to soothe the anxiety and depression that dogged him. At age 29, pushed to the brink of despair, Eckhart contemplated suicide. It's in this moment of pain a new awareness was born. Eckhart says he experienced a spiritual transformation so profound, his suffering disappeared.
Unhappiness for many people becomes an intrinsic part of their sense of identity.
Yeah.
And so that's also explains why many people have a resistance. As every therapist knows, many people have a resistance towards letting go of their unhappiness. So the therapist tries to.
Because that has become their identity. That's their
Yes,
story.
they think they lose themselves if they let go of their unhappiness.
They're not complaining about being unhappy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, Chris, I was saying to the audience before, and I don't know if you heard me, Eckhart is actually the only person of the thousands and thousands and thousands of people I've interviewed who has no ego, who just, I mean, who not only writes about it, but actually lives it and walks the walk. And so I'm not surprised that your unhappiness has not survived in you. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the other side of the world.
Absolutely.
Thanks for taking the
Thank
time
you.
to
Thank
Zoom
you.
with us. Thank you so much. We
Thank
love that
you.
tattoo.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
me.
Thank you, Chris Evans. Thank you. Michelle, where are you? You have a question. Go ahead.
Just to share that I read your book back in, 2007, and it sparked that awareness in me. But it wasn't until these past couple of years of great trials and tribulations that the discipline, the motivation to become more present, to survive very challenging things, to get relief from great pain and suffering. So it's been an awakening in me. I still get lost in the illusion of my mind. But with great gratitude, it happens for shorter and shorter periods of time. And the gift has been a true reclaiming of my spirit, that which is unshakable.
Thank you.
So thank you.
I have a comment on that. When life gets challenging, a human being can go two ways. And very often, when life gets difficult, some loss, obstacles, many ways challenge can present itself. You can either become more identified with the ego and you become more unhappy, you become a very unhappy human, reactive, angry, resentful, despondent. Many negative states can arise when you're being challenged. That's one way you can go. Or the other way you can go, and that usually happens if there's already a certain amount of presence in you, you've already practiced, or you've had glimpses of presence, or even more than glimpses of presence. When then a challenge comes, it can easily happen that the challenge, one could almost say, forces you into becoming more present. It then deepens your presence. So an example from my life, there's always a presence in my life. There's always a presence. Sometimes it's in the back. When I talk now, there's a presence in the background. I can sense the stillness behind the words. And one could say the words come out of the stillness. And that's even when I go about my daily business, there's always do ordinary things. There is that sense of peace in the background.
You are aware of the awareness.
I'm aware of the awareness. And then 2.5 years ago, I went to the doctor, another doctor story. You had one, now I have one. I had certain symptoms, intestinal symptoms. Finally had to have a colonoscopy. After the colonoscopy, the doctor said, "You have cancer." Oh. And when you hear that, usually, it could mean, yes, you could have a few more years. It could also mean you only have 6 months or 12 months. When you hear that, so I was a little shocked. Oh, the person was shocked. And immediately I noticed an enormous intensification of presence, as if somebody had turned up the dimmer switch. And on a practical level, 10 days after the diagnosis, I had an operation. But in those 10 days, I spent hours and hours in intense presence, usually presence in the background. And in this occasion, presence came into the foreground, so I would sit in my room, just no thought in my head at all, just an enormous amount of awareness, just filled with awareness. I could feel the cells of the body filling with awareness. And I believe that was a kind of self-healing also. And I had the operation, and they took a section out of my colon. And then, after the operation, another scan, and said, fine, it hasn't spread anywhere. And I continued with the wonderful presence practice, because presence is also extremely healing. So I gave that as an example for when you're really challenged and you're already familiar what presence is, then you will find that you become, through the challenge, you become more present. So it deepens you at any challenge, then deepens you to, rather than a challenge making you more unconscious.
I think this is really hard. What you're saying is you are really E.T. Your initials are E.T. and you are like E.T. sitting here in the chair, because I don't know nobody else who could do that. You know, you hear that you get the cancer diagnosis and you go, oh, I think my presence is going to come forward